Addressing the Housing Market Crisis in New Mexico by Maya Gio. This presentation will discuss the housing market crisis in New Mexico, examine what is being done, and what can be proposed. During this proposal, we will walk through an overview of the current predicament, what I propose the Albuquerque community can do to make a change, as well as the steps needed to take, the costs and budget, and predicted challenges, as well as foreseen benefits. As studied in my Project 2 report, Spatial Solutions, examining the intersections of design, policy, and the housing affordability crisis in New Mexico, our state is currently in the midst of a crisis in housing inventory and affordability. Homes and apartments are selling or leasing for far above what families can afford at the average wages, and thanks to rising interest rates, inflation, high costs of labor and materials, and restrictive state zoning, the situation is only getting worse for young adults and other disadvantaged groups in need of adequate, affordable housing. I myself am one of hundreds of thousands of New Mexico citizens struggling to find affordable housing in Albuquerque, despite working towards it every day. Because of this, I set out to discover what solutions exist for young adults in search of affordable housing, so that I may be able to share my findings with others who, like me, are longing for a place of their own to call home. My intended target audience for this proposal is young adults, first-time homebuyers, and homeowners under the age of 35. I'm targeting these groups because they are the groups most heavily impacted by rising housing costs, inflation, and high rent and mortgage rates. According to Rick Sharga, housing market intelligence expert and CEO and founder of C.J. Patrick Company, the number of young adults aged below 35 years old has risen dramatically since the early 2000s. 35 and below is the age at which Americans have generally established families and households, but due to the struggle in affordability, this hasn't occurred at the rate that it usually does. The rate of homebuyers in the U.S. under age 35 is at its lowest point in the last 5 years, making this group the most disadvantaged when it comes to housing affordability. In order to look at what can be proposed to address the issue, we must look at what's already being done, or rather, what needs to happen more. The biggest issue in tackling this housing crisis is that most of the solutions that exist require reform at the state and even federal levels, which cannot be accomplished by single individuals or even whole communities unless they have the backing of the government. Reform in governmental departments also takes an incredible amount of time, during which New Mexico citizens continue to struggle to find affordable places to call home. Listed here are existing solutions that would improve this crisis, but require policy reform. Seeing as how these options are less feasible in the short term, listed here are also solutions that are up and coming in the fields of architecture and urban planning, which is an area that's more attainable but still difficult. I believe the third category of solutions, community engagement, is where New Mexico is most likely to make the most leeway in this situation. My proposed community-based solution to gaining governmental support and initiating change in housing affordability and availability is to host a community meeting sponsored by Bernalillo County and open to all current and prospective Albuquerque homeowners or renters. Community meetings are a great way to gain feedback from the public about decisions that need to be made, and I hope to use this small-scale local event to influence change at a higher level. This proposed solution is merely a step in the process of addressing the vast issue of housing affordability, so while it is not conclusive, I envision it as a gateway that Albuquerque policymakers may need to begin making larger changes. It is something that we as a community and as individuals can do to make a difference in the realm of government, where it is otherwise hard for us to make a change. The first step in this process would be to contact the Economic Development Department of Bernalillo County, which is in charge of holding community engagement meetings. By having the backing of a credible authority with the power to make a difference at the government level, people may be more incentivized to attend. Next, we need to book a room to host this community meeting. These are often held at hotels or at the Bernalillo County building, but I would like to host it at a local community center to make it more accessible to the community. Bernalillo County owns several community centers across Albuquerque, and each one features meeting rooms of varying sizes that are available for rent. The next step is to advertise the event, for which I will print out the PSA flyers, as well as distribute them digitally. Next is to develop what would be said, asked, and discussed at the meeting, and what outcomes are expected to be gained from it. Lastly is to give the people the extra incentive that was advertised for RSVPing at the end of the meeting. As you can see, the cheaper part of executing this proposal would be the direct costs, such as printing materials and room rental fees. The indirect costs, which are the advertised rent rebates, would be the biggest expense, but I really think that this is the necessary incentive that people would need to pay attention to this campaign. Some challenges that I predict from executing this proposal are: there's no guarantee that results from the meeting will be taken up or heard by the government. It may take a long time to develop the results from the meeting. Instead of suggestions as to how the market could improve, we could receive mostly complaints. And there's no guarantee that any suggestions offered can actually be implemented. However, the benefits that I predict from this proposal are that it could make the community feel more heard and included. We could gain valuable insight and feedback that we can pass on to policymakers. We can use the opportunity to share with the community the other solutions that they can utilize as far as finding affordable housing, and it could lead to change in the housing market at a higher level. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you found the content of this presentation helpful.